Hey guys, I just wanted to show you guys a game of, again, kind of why I love Johanna in general as just a hero that you can play a lot. I mean, I find that she does get kind of boring playing her a lot because she doesn't have like as much playmaking potential as a Nubarak or Diablo or something. But at the same time, I just feel like she has enough tankiness to solve a lot of mistakes on your team. And if the enemies make a mistake by engaging on a bad fight, you just get so much value. So I really like Johanna for that. I just kind of wanted to show this game because it shows all the different things that Johanna can do and why she's pretty good. Anyway, so in this particular game, I'm going Hold Your Ground, and they recently buffed this talent. I mean, not recently, but recently, I guess. They buffed this talent to a point that it's really hard not to take this talent, even when Laws of Hope is better. But I usually still run the same thing. If they have a lot of poke on the enemy team, I go Laws of Hope so I can survive the poke while saving my shield for CC. And then I pick Hold Your Ground if they have a lot of CC, to where likely whenever I'm using Hold Your Ground to reduce damage, I'm also using Hold Your Ground to block certain CCs. And that's kind of the reason why I go either or talent. Reducing the cooldown of this is pretty nice, and increasing the shield amount. This shield's almost never broken when you pick up this talent. If they're breaking this shield, then they're usually wasting too much damage on you. It's better to just wait it out and let it drop. And if they have to wait it out, that makes it to where you're even more tanky. 1 minute into the game, I start going for a camp. And we ping a few people to try to get them into the areas they should be in. I move back just a little bit so whoever walks to my lane to assist me with this can get it rather quickly. And once I realize that they're showing up, I pop my traits to survive some extra damage here. And level 4, I'm actually just going to be going pretty much the standard E build that I've talked about before. Nothing unique. I find this build is still one of the best builds to carry with. Not necessarily carry, but it's a really well-rounded build that gives you just about everything that you need. Shield Glare increases the damage you and your team does, as well as gives you the wave clear you need to be highly effective at carrying in low ranks. Blessed Momentum allows you to get more shield glares out so that you can get more damage, as well as wave clear more, as just everything else. Not only that, but it synergizes well with your 13, 16, and level 20 talents, depending on what level 20 you end up taking. Level 13, I like going Blessed Hammer. It allows you to pop your Sins Exposed from a far range. It allows you to interrupt from a far range, as well as it's a surprising amount of damage just at melee range, because your two first hammers always hit whoever's in front of you. So it's immediate 200 damage, which it's kind of hard to say that for either of the other talents, because if you're going against a single tank, you won't get roar value. And if you're going against a lot of backline, you're not going to get a lot of roar value. So I just really like Blessed Hammer. It's just a really powerful talent that gets a lot of value. Level 16, Holy Renewal. You're going to have a low cooldown using your E on as many targets as possible, so you're already going to be healing. So you'll have your self-healing that you're lacking from Hold Your Ground once you get up to 16. And finally, level 20, if your team is dying or the enemy team is diving past you, giving them all shields is pretty much game ending. Lowering the cooldown of those shields is even more game ending. So it's just really, really powerful. And that is essentially the build, and I'll talk about the playstyle a little bit as we get into this game. Early game, I play pretty safe, honestly. Like, you don't have a major engage without your ultimate, so I try not to even go for any kills to begin with. I focus primarily on getting quick wave clear so we can get some value, but when I see people going into other lanes, I like to start pressuring objectives. So in this case, we have Falstad pressuring bot, and we want to gain value out of the global aspect. So we immediately start pushing. Now, after I corralled the minions far away from the objective, and you can do the same thing on the plant map as well, you always want to corral in the most aggressive place possible. So you corral over here so that your team can play in a safe position. Then after that, the second time you're going to be corralling the minions once you cap it is in a safer place so your whole team can hide behind you. You can see how I immediately start positioning safer, and now I'm just going to try to pull these minions closer. But we do get a really good pull. We get a nice slow, as well as some bonus damage of Sins Exposed, allowing us to start off with 1 kill. I don't like overcommitting to these objectives when we already have low health, low mana, and so instead I'm going to focus on defending while my team can go back and work on something else, which is something that a lot of people make mistakes on this map and on Hanamura, where the objective takes so long to capture that people overstay, waste all of their resources, and then they don't have the resources for the next fight. I do have Blessed Momentum now, so I can blow up waves as well as do a decent amount of cams, but it's not amazing. I just do this, just do enough to where I can keep things alive. I try to save my trait more for CC that I need to dodge rather than just using it for damage, but sometimes when you do pick this level 1 talent before level 16, you will have to use it to reduce damage. We do pick up a little bit there. I think I missed that globe. Or no, the globes are red for me because I'm on the team. And once again, we've got Falstead's heading into the global. Zagara is down at the bottom, so I immediately go to pressure for the objective because we do have a global and they don't. We do have a camp pushing and they don't. So we immediately go to pressure this. Now, I use my trait to block the damage as well as the CC at the same time, and I stand near the Lucio's heal so we can get healed. When he approaches me, then I switch back over so we can start pushing once again. We finish off these minions, and I go to just zone a little bit as we're getting value in the global lane, as well as everything else. She has to use something to interrupt, and the interrupt doesn't go off by her initially, but he's able to interrupt me. I just channel again. I want to force them into thinking that they have to overutilize things, right? Because this is what Johanna's great at. While Johanna doesn't have an amazing engage, she can sit in a fight for a really long period of time and just answer the enemies. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do you counter Chen? And I wanted to also show this game because after I made that Chen video where everyone is, he's pretty much showed that he's the best diver in the game. I wanted to show you guys how to counter Chen now, if he does go the correct build and if he does go the correct play style. So again, we sit here and my team starts backing up a little bit to get behind me, and as you should, the tank should be kind of in the front, and I'm keeping all the minions over on a safer area for me to run away from. The enemies do get one forward out of this because they had a Zagara that was just pushing the side lanes the entire time, which is pretty valuable for them, to be honest. So right here, I initially want to blow up the wave, and then I change my mind because I'm like, you know what? I actually want this objective to be pushing, and I want to build these up first. I don't want them to push in and die this before we actually get the objective. So when I make that decision, I end up seeing that Rexar pushes it in all the way, and I'm like, all right, we'll just go to a different lane, and that's perfectly fine. It's not a huge deal, so we'll do it in mid lane instead. I'll clear this up a little bit, and then we'll leave a couple minions here so that they don't push. And we'll have a wave here, possibly a second wave. I do pick up a fountain because I want to be full health and full mana for this fight. Now, if you ever pick up a fountain early like this, be willing to take some damage for your team. You see how I walk right in here and I'm taking damage from my team, but at the same time, I still have healing over time that's healing me from the fountain. So we can play way more aggressive if you ever have a fountain. And as long as this mana is still going, I still have health coming in from the fountain. So I'm going to take a lot of damage first, and then I'm going to pop my trait and let the fountain heal me back up to full again. So we were able to play pretty aggressive in here, getting some damage off. I do have Blessed Shield. I still think it's the best ult in the game for... Sorry, it's the best ult for Johanna, not the best ult in the game. It's an okay ult. It's so much faster than the other one that the other one you don't get a lot of value and people can usually walk away. The only time that you want to be going with this ultimate is if you do end up picking up Light Bomb. That way you can pop Light Bomb, Falling Sword, jump in there, and it's really good. But another reason why I love this is so fast that if you watch this Chen whenever he tries to ult, I'm going to be interrupting his ult with Blessed Shield, or I'm going to try to predict his ult with my Condemn. And the way you do that is I explained a little bit on how the Chen is supposed to do his combos. He's supposed to charge in with Q, then he's supposed to use his E to eat CC and to eat everything else and eat all this damage, and then he uses his R to mitigate all of the damage that he used from his stagger or his E. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to wait until stagger goes for a little bit, and then I'm going to pop Condemn, and I'll be able to interrupt his ult, or at least that's the theory. So first objective, we actually went even on trades because they did win bottom lane and we only got top lane out of it. So we actually went even. Not great considering we did win the objective. But during the objective, they were able to get or as we were trying to win the objective anyways, they were able to get that. So fast forward a little bit, and again, wave clear for Johanna. So you can see I'll hit a lot of lanes. I don't use an E immediately. I want to reposition so my E is going to hit all the minions at once. And then I'll use my W and my 1 auto attack to each minion up until level 14. At level 14, you don't need to auto attack minions anymore. You do 1E, 1W, 1Q, the whole minion wave is dropped. I want to have mana, and there's nothing else to push because mid lane's already pushed, top lane's already pushed. So I just want to have more mana. I could have stayed a little bit longer for the mana, but I actually have 4 mana per second at this level. So as I'm walking back to lane, I will be gaining back the majority of my mana. You do want to auto-attack the lower cooldowns here. I can always press trait to reduce the damage I take, but instead I'll just take a whole load of damage because I press trait too slow. I don't know. Take about half my health here, and it's probably because I'm more used to playing with Laws of Hope that I usually just press Laws of Hope to gain my life back here rather than press my trait. And so I would say that's a misplay on my part. That I should be using my trait more often to just mitigate damage if I'm going to be taking this level 1 talent. But I just don't like using my trait unless it's for a CC. Because it's just super important. Right here, we have a decent fight going on. It's not great for us, but it is a fight that we will need to deal with. We do have Falstad pushing down in the bottom lane. I will blow up one lane right here. I reposition, use my E, use my W, use my Q. Now we can go back down here. I do have a tap if I want it, but I'm actually going to back. So I call out to my team. I say we need 1 interrupt first, and they pretty much just say, hey, we're fine because there's minions that they need to kill first. And we just make our way back into the objective. Because I have a lot of wave clear, I can pretty much always go for wave clear first. Before I engage, I always like to use Blessed Hammer, unless I need to immediately use like a Blessed Shield or a W to grab people. But if I'm already going to use a W, it's already going to dismount me. And if I start with a Blessed Hammer, I can use my Shield Glare and reduce the cooldown. As you can see, I reduced the cooldown to a 5-second cooldown. I think it was 6 initially, actually, because it was 24 seconds was shaved off. But that's huge. So it immediately reduces the cooldown, means you're going to get a second one off. And you can see I already did 150 damage to that person, another set of damage. So it's like I just hit, look, 140, 140, 150, 140. Like I'm just hitting so many people immediately with that, and I'll have another one right afterwards. I can use a Blessed Shield at any point to stun these guys. And that would have been a great Blessed Shield to possibly lead to a Zagara kill. But because we were already cocooned, I was like, no, I don't want to use it here. And I'd like to save my Blessed Shield to try to interrupt Chen's ult. Because if we can interrupt Chen's ult when he has a whole bunch of stagger on him, he's going to die. So as much as I think that he's still one of the best divers in the game, I really wanted to show how easily it is to counter it. If the enemy Chen is not paying attention, or if your team is paying attention. Again, 2 more Blessed Hammers are being casted. A lot of damage is coming out. We can throw in a Blessed Hammer or Blessed Shield to try to get a kill here. And I end up missing it, hitting other people. Now, I do want to peel for my team, but it's very difficult against a Chen. He did already use the root, so all I need to do now is slow and then pull them away once with the Condemn, and my team will be perfectly fine. And there we go. My team's fine, but I'm dead. I could blame and say, oh, well, Gust came out too late. But in all honesty, I didn't use my trait anywhere near as often as I should have there, and I could have saved myself. So these are the times where a lot of people would blame their team and just be like, oh, look who's still alive. It's all your fault. It honestly was a misplay on my end. We go right back into the fight again. What do? I channel so that they don't win the objective. And I could have gone and like immediately tried to go for a kill there, but channel's more important. As you can see, I'm trying to corral the minions over here. Now, there's a trick that I really like, and unfortunately you can't do this too much unless you're the only one that's corralling for your team. If you don't kill the minions, they won't continue spawning. So, for example, say you have 3 of these minions sitting on you. They won't respawn. Why is that a good thing and why is that a bad thing? It's a bad thing because you're taking a lot of damage. It's a good thing because you can keep all the minions safe over here while you're in a safe position to just walk away. Rather than having it to where you kill one here and then one respawns and you suddenly have to go in a really aggressive position to stop them, you can stay in a safe spot without actually killing these. Now, the downside is you take a lot of damage because you're not killing them. So, just pros and cons. In this case, because Treebeard was already killing them, I figured I would kill them as well. I got off a Blessed Hammer and then immediately Shield Glare, dropping it down to a 12-second cooldown. We're going in on the Chen, and just watch this Chen for a second. So this is what I'm talking about. He used his stagger first. What's going to happen at the end of this stun, because he already has all this stagger damage on him? He's going to go for his ult. And if he goes for his ult and I can interrupt it, it's a guaranteed kill because he has this much damage over time on him. So what does he do? He goes for an ult, and what do? I stun him, and there we go. Chen's dead. And that's how you counter Chen. He's an extremely powerful hero that is permanently banned in competitive. But if you are playing a hero that has a fast stun that you can land it on, then it's really powerful. So right there, the stun not only killed Chen, but it also allowed us to win the objective. If Chen would have ulted there, they would have been able to push in with a 5v5. It actually would have been a 5v4 because Kalstad was mid, but most likely she would have flown in. And we did end up winning that. I say she because that's the player. If you guys don't know, I'm playing with 2 streamers today, or on this this day that I played. Anyways, so again, play to your strengths on Johanna. I could clear this wave really quickly, but I also could get a little bit more damage if I do a Blessed Hammer and then blind both of these. My goal is to blind this Zul'jin almost the entire game, because if I can blind him the entire game, then it's like they're down 1 hero. And if I can blind him, honestly, Zagara's damage in teamfights is not great, and as long as I can interrupt his ult, he's not great either. So I alone can pretty much turn off 3 of the members of their team, right? I can mitigate her damage by using my trait, I can mitigate his damage by interrupting his ult, and I can mitigate his damage by blinding him. So if you play really well, you can make these team fights super easy. Again, I did Blessed Hammer, blind, and it's back down to a 12-second cooldown, so I'll be able to use my Blessed Hammer again before I use my blind again. Super easy to push this out. We do see the Zagara up here, so I might use my ult just to guarantee this kill. I wait till his stun is over, and then I use my stun. You don't want to overlap stuns too long, because if you both throw your stuns at the same time, then not only is there a chance that one of them misses because her stun is connected to a knockback, but also it just makes it to where instead of locking him down and having 2 seconds to DPS, you only have like 0.75 seconds to DPS. This time I don't have an interrupt for Chen's ult with my R, so I may lower my cooldowns and try to use my W to interrupt the next time. So in order to interrupt with a W, it's very, very tricky because you have to wait until his stagger gets to about half of its duration. And once it's about half duration, you pop your W, and most likely he'll use his ult near the end of his stagger and get it interrupted. But it's really difficult to do it, so I don't try to do it too often, and I end up missing it right there. So then I tell my team to just back out because he got his thing off. He ends up killing the Lucio, and we have to deal with a souped up Chen melting us down. Now, the cool part about once Chen uses his ult is you can get more bodies to hit with Shield Glare, which means you get more heals off of Holy Renewal, you get lower cooldowns with Blessed Hammer, and if I do end up going Blinded by the Light, you get lower cooldown off of that. Just more bodies to hit. This is one of those where I use an ult just because I don't expect a fight to happen in the next 60 seconds anyways, because we need to clear up lanes, we need to set up for objectives, etc., etc. And I don't want to be losing our Falstad because she's kind of our answer to the enemies trying to do boss. Now, she does use Gust, I use my ult, and Lucio's dead. This would be a great time for the enemies to boss if they wanted to, but I think they're just worried about the risk of doing so. I back because I want to have full health and full mana for the objective. They do end up going for a boss, and as they go for a boss, we initially go for the objective. Then we figure that Rexar can get this objective alone, and I want to join the team. You always want to try to stabilize first if you're ahead. What stabilize means is instead of taking trades, you're already ahead. So we already have a keep. We already have this huge advantage against the enemies. We're already going to hit level 20s first. So you want to stabilize first, meaning that you want to defend any objectives that the enemies are capping, any camps that they're doing first, and then you go for the aggressive plays later. So that's what we do. We go for the stabilize first. And so I initially go for this. I see that his stagger's going off, so look at my condemn, right? Do you see my condemn timing? He goes for an ult. He doesn't actually go for an ult, so don't interrupt it there. And now I'm saving my Blessed Shield to interrupt the next ult. I end up using it too early again, but the Gust interrupts it this time, and he does die to his damage over time. Or he should die to it. Oh no, he got an ult from Lili. So I thought we would be able to stun lock him with the Blessed Shield because I thought that his thing was already over, and it just wasn't enough. But, I mean, Gust can be. I use my W just for the off chance that I do grab someone, but I also do reveal the thing. We really don't chase that hard in terms of our team composition. The reason we're chasing is so that our Rexar continues to win the objective. We can ignore this because this is one of the few maps that your core regenerates. I think it's the only map that your core regenerates health. So we actually leave this because it'll regenerate its health. We want to make sure that we're in the team fight. Now, we need to remember something. He still has his ult because his ult was used and then it was interrupted, which means it always goes on a 10-second cooldown. So I need to save my W and try to use my W to interrupt his ult. As you can see, I used my W and I used it a little late. It might be right on the nose. We'll see. But you want to try to, again, time it to where your W comes out about halfway through his stagger. And there we go. I interrupted his ult using just my W. The timing was almost off there, but it still worked out. And with that, we won the objective. We defended the boss. We made it to where we didn't lose there, as well as we did get a bunch of kills. I will be finishing off the Zagara with my blind and my damage from my Q, while the other Taz Dingo is taken out. As far as damage goes, you don't do very much, but you do have a ton of wave clear, a ton of utility in team fights, a decent amount of CC, and it's just a very, very powerful hero for carrying in low ranks. Because you can wave clear for days, and you can just mitigate everything the enemies try to do during team fights. She struggles on maps that you might have where you need to engage on the enemies. So let's say a map that you can't just like sit on a point and have them walk up to you. Blackheart's Bay is a great example of this. Not that it's a map in Storm League or anything, but it's a map that she has a really hard time because while you can double soak, that's about all you can do. The enemies can walk away from almost all your fights. Alterac Pass is kind of like that, but as you can see, it was really easy to just walk up on the objective right when we had an advantage, and there was nothing the enemies could do about it. And like, it's one of those things that it feels like visually I didn't do anything as flashy as a lot of the assassins, but we never really struggled in any of these team fights. And in the few team fights that they might have been able to win, all it took was a couple blinds or a couple interrupts to just end out this game. Some people that Johanna works really well with, I mean, of course, Cassia's on the top of that list because you can blind and increase her damage, but she also works well with people who have their own form of engages. For example, an Unleash the Boars or a Gust could be a great way to engage so you don't have to use your abilities to engage. A Lucio could allow you to get close enough to where you can W and Q, as well as, I would say, Maiev or Leoric, who can, again, they can engage for you. Now, not just that, there are a lot of crazy combos with her. So, for example, I talked a little bit about the Light Bomb plus Falling Sword. I'd still like to do a video on that. I just need to play a few games with an Anduin and a Johanna in the same team. It's a really powerful combo that gets a lot, but most of the time, I like Blessed Shield because it's instant. It's one of the fastest, easy to land stuns in the game. That also can stun multiple people, which is just a really, really powerful ult. Very low cooldown. Amazing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to check out my other videos.